This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Dreamcast Junkyard Dream Pod. My name is Tom and I'm joined by a stellar worldwide cast again tonight. To my left I've got Aaron the Gaggerman Foster. He's not been on the podcast for a while, but he's back. Aaron, how you doing?
Hello. It's been a very long time. In fact, I can't even remember how long now. It's
a couple of months. We've had people making comments saying, "Where's Gaggerman? Where's Gaggerman?"
As PC Wizard put it, needs more Gaggerman. So.
Yeah, exactly. And next to Gaggerman, we have all the way from down under. It's Doc Eggfan, aka Scott. Scott, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Go the Wallabies.
Oh yeah, it's the World Cup final, isn't it? When is that? Is it? I mean, since England got knocked out of the Rugby World Cup, I've not really been paying much attention, as you can imagine. But when is it? Tomorrow? Sunday?
Yeah, it's early in the morning tomorrow for me. So tomorrow for you too. Yeah.
Well, that shows how much I know. It's in this country, and I don't even know when it is. For those people who are not really bothered about rugby, it's the Rugby World Cup, and it's probably actually happened by the time you hear this. So we'll move on. All the way from upstate New York, we have Caleb.
Oh, yes. Happy Halloween. Oh, yes. Hello, Tom.
Hello. Have you been following the rugby at all, Caleb?
No.
The short answer, the best answer.
What's a rugby, Emma? What?
What's a rugby?
Tonight we have a very special guest. His name is Mike Phelan. He's the person who actually spent a good chunk of his life creating the Dreamcast Junkyard Ultimate Collector's Guide, which you may have seen us tweeting and putting on the Facebook group. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, hello, Mike.
Hello, Tom.
Thanks very much for coming on and joining us at very short notice. For those people who are not familiar with the Bristol accent, if Mike does slip into pirate every now and then, that's why. But yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast, Mike, and we will come back and speak to you in a bit about the guide and how you created it and all the hard work that you put into it. So yeah, that's the lineup. Like I say, it's a truly international affair today, as is usually the norm. But we always do this, and we'll begin by just quickly jumping into what we've picked up or played in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to start because I'm going to be really, really brief. I have to admit, I've not actually played on my Dreamcast at all in the last couple of weeks. I've just been,
no.
Yeah. To be honest, I've not actually played a lot. I got the Retron. Yeah, I got the Retron. I played a bit of Sonic Advance 3 on the Game Boy Advance on the big screen, and I also got Super Meat Boy for the PS Vita. I've been playing that quite a bit, but other than that, I've been quite neglecting my consoles, and that's going to change in the next week or so. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw the floor open to you guys and see what you've been playing or buying or anything like that, Dreamcast or otherwise. I'll start with you, Caleb.
Yes, I have not been buying or playing all that much. There is a halfway decent deal at a local game store. And I ended up getting Syndicate, XCOM Bureau, Ghostbusters, and The Last Remnant for $7.42.
Cool. Well, an Xbox, you mean? Or?
The Xbox 360 and Ghostbusters was actually on the PS3. So I thought that was actually a really great deal. But unfortunately, no Dreamcast deals, no retro deals, no nothing. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I actually got picked up Strider 2 for the Genesis.
Oh, nice.
I'm sorry. That would be
the Mega Drive.
Yes, the Mega Drive. I'm sorry.
Gagaman, you've not been on for ages. You must have bought or played something on the Dreamcast. Hit me.
Yeah, I finally got my hands on that new indie game Fruity in the week.
Excellent. Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously for that price, I couldn't say no, really. And, I actually finally got around to playing it just about an hour ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
Finally squeezed in time to actually give it a go. And, yeah, really quite a nice little puzzle game. Took a little while to figure out what was going on with it. The way the tutorial describes it was a bit vague.
Yeah,
But,
I thought the same when I first started playing it. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and then it only after a couple of games that did it click that you meant to change the
way
middle
they
one.
described it doesn't really help it much. It was like, you click this thing, and then this thing will change, but this one will go left to right, and it was like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, once you've played a few levels, it sort of clicks. So yeah, it's nice, and I can't say I've seen a puzzle game quite like that, where you have a sort of spot the difference kind of thing going on with two screens like that. So yeah, quite a nice little thing. So that's what I've been playing Dreamcast wise mainly. Elsewhere, I've been starting to practice up on Alien Soldier for the Mega Drive because it's come to my attention. My girlfriend told me that the game is set in 2015, so I want to see if I can complete the game before it becomes history.
Kind of like in a weird sort of offshoot from the Back to the Future thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how. I mean, it doesn't have a specific date in it, but if I could learn the game enough that I can actually beat it by the end of the year, I'll be quite pleased for that. So I might do live streams or something of me struggling through it because it's such a hard game.
We've all got life goals. I mean, to have that as your life goal is commendable.
Oh my.
Scott, what have you been doing?
A little bit. So I finally got my Ghostblade regular and limited editions arrived last week or the week before. So lots of people were saying, where are they? They've been slow mailing them out, but I noticed it was mailed 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, and so it just took a while to get down to Australia. So I wasn't too upset. Haven't had a chance to play it though yet. And I also got Fruity. It arrived yesterday, I think. So
cool.
I've kept my 100% completeness of indie releases up to this point.
Nice.
So I'm quite pleased with myself.
Awesome.
Yeah. I also picked up a bulk lot of SC3000 cassette games.
Wow.
They were being sold by someone in the UK, and they were mostly Australian releases. So I repatriated them back to Australia. and it was a good deal for me because about half of them I didn't have, and the other half that I did have and doubled up on were actually ones that I've failed to get to load. So they're alternative versions of ones I own that I can't get to load. So hopefully I can get these new ones to load. So that'll be handy.
Right.
And by cassette, do you mean they're actually like cassette tapes, or?
Yeah, little data cassette tapes. Yeah, like the old-fashioned Commodore 64 and Spectrum games. Yeah. So they're mostly just educational rubbish.
I just see some import guy in the customs saying, "Well, I better scan this box to make sure there's nothing in there." He just gets out the big magnet. He's like, nope, nothing in there.
Yeah, that's right. So I haven't had a chance to try them yet. So they're probably
fingers crossed.
So we'll see. Yeah. I also picked up the version 9.5 of the Lindbergh multi-kit. So previously I'd had 8.5, and now I've got 9.5, which adds support for Afterburner Climax,
nice,
360 controller, and it also eliminates the need for an input-output board. So version 8.5 requires the input-output board to initialize and get to the game menu, but this one bypasses it, so you can there's less components you need to set it up and get it to work. So I got that just before I left for overseas, and I haven't had a chance to have a go at it yet. So,
out of interest, Scott, before you carry on, how many Lindbergh machines do you actually own now?
5.
Okay. Moving on.
I did have. I needed one of. I needed to collect the rainbow, so I've got the blue, the yellow, the red, and the grey. So, but yeah. Nice. And I just recently won a Yahoo Auctions auction in Japan for Wild Riders for the Naomi 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is somewhat Dreamcast related. So if you can imagine an unholy union between Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio on motorbikes.
I know the game. I think my Seafront Arcade may have hired that game very briefly sometime in the mid-2000s. I remember actually seeing that game in an arcade once.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in the arcades, and I've only looked at emulated footage on YouTube.
Yeah,
so,
same.
It looks really fun, but it's quite shallow. There's 2 characters and 1 track. So once you've done that, you're pretty much done. But it also has score chase element to it.
Has that really cool sort of comic book panel thing going on as well, where there's stuff going on in every corner of the screen constantly.
So with the two characters and the one track, it's got slightly more longevity than Ghostblade.
Ouch. Burn.
No offense if you're listening to this, guys from Ucast.
So if the Dreamcast had lasted a bit longer, we might have seen a conversion of it and possibly a remixed track or something.
Yeah, maybe some extra modes and stuff.
Yeah, but we didn't quite get that far. So.
One game that I would really like to have seen on the Dreamcast that has only been brought to my attention through the articles that you've written, Scott, is Dolphin Blue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really like the look of that. It looks fantastic. I know you've got an Atomic Wave and that's on that system, but if the Dreamcast had lived on, maybe we would have got that as well.
And that system was based on the Dreamcast hardware in some form, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was basically the Naomi was a Dreamcast built for the JVS standard, and then Sammy took the Dreamcast and built it for the Jammer standard. So it was they're very similar, but they're slightly different input standards.
Ah, okay.
But yeah. I recently bought a compact flash card of Dolphin Blue converted from Atomic Wave to run on Naomi.
Wow.
So I've got two versions of it now because I need to fiddle with my Atomic Wave a bit because I can't get sound out of the audio connector for some reason. But there is a mod to solder wires to the where the sound actually is on the board, so I need to try that out at some point. But yeah, I've got it for Naomi now, so I can hear it on the Naomi at least.
Last but not least, Mike, our guest presenter, what have you been playing, if anything, recently on the Dreamcast or otherwise?
Not much on a Dreamcast, really. I think the last game I received was Ghostblade. I thought I'd get a copy after seeing your review everywhere on the internet,
including the Metro.
But I didn't receive it, so I panicked a little bit and I decided to buy a regular edition on eBay, and the same day it turned up, I got the collector's edition from Dreamcast. So I've now got two copies, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I've mainly PS4.
Yeah.
Just to break the retro theme a little bit, it's mainly PS4 this month.
Anything in particular?
Nathan Drake Collection.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Big fan of the Uncharted games, so I'm playing through them again. It looks lovely as well. And a few little WRC, the rally game.
Oh, excellent.
Under the radar of a lot of people, but great game.
I've been meaning to ask somebody who's played that. I mean, I know it's from the same developer who made that awful Motorcycle Club, so I was a bit wary of buying it or not, but what's the verdict?
It's not bad. It's better than the last bunch of WRCs, which they started very badly when they came on the 360.
Yeah.
They've got better, and this one sort of completely reinvented it. It's not as good as Codemasters rally games.
Right.
Yet. But it's a good start. I mean,
I was kind of holding out for Sebastian Loeb Rally, but if this one goes down in price a bit in the next couple of weeks, I might just take a punt on it because it looks quite good, and I do like my rally games.
Tom, did you see that they've added motorbikes to Drive Club?
I did, yes. I've not actually got it yet. I mean, I am a motorcyclist in real life as well, so it really kind of intrigues me how good the handling and everything. I mean, I quite like Drive Club anyway, so I'm quite interested to see what kind of handling model they've put onto the motorcycles.
Yeah,
and see if it actually improves the game. I mean, I quite like it anyway, but just improves the game in inverted commas.
They have motorcycles in the UK now.
Yeah. They came out in about 2005.
We had a tournament that got a Saturn game and everything.
Last time I checked, you guys were putting around on little, Vespas and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Spitfires and
horse and cart.
You can't talk. Fucking hell, you've only got electricity down there.
No, I just saw the documentary Mad Max, and they had plenty of motorcycles in Australia.
All right, guys, we'll move on to our first topic of this evening. It's just really a continuation of something we spoke about in the last podcast, and that was because we've got a couple of people who weren't on that one. I was just intrigued to know if there's any games that Scott, Aaron, or Mike that you've seen but you've never actually played. If there's any one particular game that you'd like to but just never got the chance to. So start with you, Scott. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, there's probably a handful of them, but I'll focus on one which I'm intrigued by, but I've never actually given it a go. Which was El Dorado Gate, the series that was released by Capcom on the Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah.
The concept intrigues me a little. I don't know whether the reality actually matches the concept, but the idea of it sounds really good. And it starts, if you go back to Resident Evil 2, released by Capcom, with that sort of scenario A-B mode, where you start with one character and then you finish it with the other, and the actions of one affect the other later on.
Yeah.
And they sort of ran with that concept and started to look at the Legend of Zelda trilogy that they worked on for Nintendo that became Oracle Ages and Oracle Seasons, with that sort of concept of effects in one game can affect the other, but they sort of took it to the nth degree with El Dorado Gate on Dreamcast. So there were 7 volumes released every 2 months between October 2000 and later on in 2001, which was quite impressive that they continued and completed it after the announcement of its continuation of Dreamcast. So the full set was released, and you can get a box set to put them all in.
Oh,
and
nice.
Basically, it's a Japanese RPG with. There are 12 main characters, and each character has their own story arc and trials to overcome, and they're all sort of interconnected, and the actions of one character can affect the options of another character later on. So the first volume came out with 3 characters, and you'd play through those 3 characters, and then your VMU would save progress, and then 2 months later you would buy volume 2, and you get brand new characters, and what you did in the first volume can impact on what happens in the second volume, and it continued on for 7 episodes, which really intrigues me. Yeah.
If you bought one of the later volumes and played the first, would it actually work, or is it like Shenmue and Shenmue 2 where you can continue stuff? Or
Yeah, I did some research into it, and I know they've had problems emulating the later volumes, potentially due to this interaction with the VMU save.
That's what it is, yeah.
Which is also hampering any progress that was made in translating it to English, because there was some efforts, but I don't think it's got very far. But yeah, just the whole idea. I don't know whether it'll actually, if I actually ever get around to playing it, it'll be absolutely brilliant and fantastic. And there's like multiple endings and huge replay value, or whether it's sort of quite simple and doesn't really evolve the idea very well. But it just seems really ambitious and really.
It's got a beautiful art style.
Yeah,
love the box art.
It's the same artist who just the covers looks like it's the Final Fantasy guy, right?
Looks like it, but I'm not entirely sure.
Because Capcom was a big company, there was the potential for it to be released in English-speaking countries, but because the Dreamcast ended before its time, we never saw it. But I'm holding out I'm hoping against hope that one day someone will release a smart TV that translates text on the screen into subtitles.
Oh, that'd be good.
Because I feel like the technology exists to do that. But I haven't seen anyone do it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it happens in the next few years or something, because then all these Japanese games...
Yeah, an evolution of Phantasy Star Online's translation system that they had in place.
Yeah.
Which still doesn't seem to be used much. I would have thought that would become a bit of a standard, but it never kind of did. Another thing that the Dreamcast did.
You can get a smartphone and take a picture of like a Japanese manga, and then the smartphone will read the image and translate the Japanese text into English.
Yeah.
So I know the technology exists. I just want someone to do it for the TV. So when I plug my Japanese Dreamcast games in, I can actually read it.
That's a really good idea, to be honest.
So long as it can read like lower resolution, like pixelated text, yeah.
Yeah. And even translating speech and stuff. I'm sure the technology exists. It's just I haven't seen any TV manufacturer sort of go for it.
We might have to wait for the rise of Skynet for that kind of technology. But, that's a good choice. What about you, Aaron? What game have you not been able to play but would like to?
There is one game I can think of. It came out in Japan and America, but it never came out in Europe, and it was a game called Elemental Gimmick Gear, or
yes.
Egg. Yeah. I've always wanted. I've looked up videos of it and stuff, and just thought it was really intriguing because it's like a top-down 2D RPG, but then it's also got 3D.
Yeah, I have that game. I have not played a full playthrough of that. I was actually considering doing so. There's some really good sound effects in that game. I know there's a solid clunk. But other than that, like I tried it like a couple of years ago, and I haven't actually sat down and played it. I got to pull that one out for the stream one of these days.
That'd be cool. I'd love to see that.
It's a good choice actually. It's a game that I've seen multiple times on eBay and always thought, should I get that? The one thing that sticks in my mind is that I remember when the official Dreamcast magazine reviewed it when it first came out. As an import review, and they gave it a really bad review, so that was kind of stuck in my mind. However, the sort of the SNES-like 16-bit graphics really kind of
it looks lovely.
Struck a chord with me. I quite like the visual style of it.
And then it goes into like 3D graphics for like the combat parts, doesn't it? Where you're in the like the egg-shaped mech. And what's always like, I could have bought this game loads of times. There's like the Japanese version is really cheap. Like you could just get that for like probably less than a tenner. But obviously the language barrier would kind of spoil it. So really I want to try and get my hands on an American copy, but I have yet to find a copy that's either cheap or, you know, doesn't have large postage on it from America. So
it's one of those weird games which used to be very easy to get, and now for some reason the prices just like jumped up to like crazy amounts.
It's become that way now with that game, and a few others from America seem to have gone that way as well. Like D2, for example, I've got the Japanese version of that, but that game's like kind of hard to play in Japanese, but like the American version's really expensive now.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to check the American version for ages, but I've got the Japanese one, but I can't play it. You know, the American one is just ridiculously expensive. So
you get the bonus tentacle action in the Japanese version, though. You know.
Yeah, I was going to say we all just need to get off our lazy asses and learn Japanese, and then we'll be right.
Yeah. If only Rob was here to tell us what it was. What about yourself, Mike? There must be something that you've not played yet, but would like to.
There's lots of games I haven't played. My knowledge of Japanese is so poor. Most games are Japanese only are a challenge, to say the least. But my choice isn't actually like that. My choice is actually goes on from the subject we were talking about a minute ago. That's expensive American versions of games. Gigawing 2. I've got a full American set, and the only one I've got left to do is Gigawing 2. And I refuse to pay the prices that it's currently going for. I've got it in Japanese version. It's a great game, but the price of it is so high. I have a slight problem with spending that much money on shooters.
Yeah.
Well, one game I don't have a problem with as such, but it's a game I've got already in Japanese version.
I was going to say I've got the American copy because I got lucky one time. I actually got a black Sega Sports Dreamcast with a whole bundle of American games, and it had Mars Matrix and Gigawing 2 amongst it.
Yeah, on the subject of Japanese shmups, I was about 5 to 10 minutes away from winning an eBay auction for Cyvaria 2 for about £3.
Wow.
And then somebody outbid me at the last minute, and it went for like £4.50. I was like,
£4.50? I would have had that.
I was at where my dad lives. He has no internet, and he has no like phone signal anywhere near his house. So I didn't get the notification until I went back to Civilization and got a 3G signal again. And I was kicking myself. I was like, oh my god, Cyvaria 2. It's like £50 to £100 usually, and this guy got it for like £4 something because I couldn't bid on it. Like, oh my god!
Should have put a higher bid in.
I know, yeah, it's just me being cheap as usual.
At least a tenner.
Speaking about Japanese games and us not being able to speak Japanese or play any of them, this is actually a nice segue into our next section. People who visit the Dreamcast Junkyard main website or the Facebook page, or even follow us collectively on Twitter, may have seen that we've been, I wouldn't say spamming, but we've been pushing the latest production, shall we say, from I say from the Dreamcast Junkyard. It's not really from us. We're just kind of helping to promote it. It's all come from the pen of one particular man, and his name is Mike Phelan, who has joined us tonight as a guest. That is the Dreamcast Junkyard Ultimate Collector's Guide, which is a fantastic book. It's 57 pages listing every single Dreamcast game that's ever been created. And within those pages is also a Japanese accessibility guide, which I think is an invaluable source for people who maybe want to get involved with the Japanese library but don't know what they can play. I'm not going to carry on too much and just take up all the airwaves. But I just wanted to kind of say to Mike, it's a phenomenal piece of work.
Thank you.
How did it all begin? What made you think that this is something that you should actually set out to do?
Funnily enough, the main reason I did it was because I was so annoyed at my own lack of organisation. I've been collecting retro video games for since 2007 now, probably. And I had so many. At one point I had like 4,000 games, and I wasn't playing them at all. And so I thought, I'm going to focus on one console. And I thought, if I'm going to focus on one console, I'm going to throw myself in at deep end, do it properly. And so really, it was just my own way of keeping track of what there is to get towards that ultimate.
Did you begin by thinking, right, I need to like start a list of what I've got and what I need to get, kind of thing, and then it just kind of went from there, or?
Well, first of all, it was a PAL collection. There was a guy on a forum I used to go to, and he was doing a PAL Dreamcast collection. And at that point, I'd never even considered doing a full collection of a certain console. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go. Went for the full collection, did that pretty easily. Then I realised, the American ones were playable, definitely. So I went for that. And then after that, I realised, I'm halfway here now. Might as well continue the whole. Started listing the regional differences, mainly due to things like the Grand Theft Auto 2 separate covers, and things like that.
Were these things that you kind of noticed yourself and were just like thinking, oh, wait a minute, I've got these 2 copies of the same game. I'll just make a quick note of what the differences are, because I've noticed in the guide itself, like notes basically under a lot of the entries that say, oh, this version is slightly different from this one, and this is the reason why, and this is what is different. And I love that. It's almost like a personal kind of notation.
Yeah. I think the problem is on the internet, as always is a problem with the internet, there's so many different sources of information, and so many lists for Dreamcast games are either inaccurate or list different things which can contrast with other sites. And so I was just making notes as I went along to see which was which, and although I've compiled the guide myself, it's a lot of other people's work as well, because there's loads of websites out there with lots of lists, lots of lists of games on American versions or Japanese versions, and I've used them and sort of compiled it to make one overall guide, which hasn't really been out there before, as far as I've seen. Anyway, I hope not. Otherwise, it's
and it's a bit late now to.
4 years of my life have been wasted as it is, so let's hope not.
Can I just say, I really wish this list was around when I did that top 100 Dreamcast thing, because as you were saying, there's loads of like different websites that have databases of Dreamcast games, but they all kind of vary, and some of it's all over. And what I was trying to do with that top 100 thing is make it so people could vote for every single game that exists. Not necessarily all the variants, but every single Japanese game, even all the dating sims and stuff, just in case. And finding all the names of the games and finding, that stuff was actually really difficult. I think I used about 4 different sources just to get what I could. And I still don't think it was, 100%. But really could have done with that list back when I made that.
That's right. There were so many sites which will list games that never were released, whether they were updated. And the last update in 2002, still waiting for games to be released. Not listing games that are unlicensed to come out afterwards. So it's just an attempt to get everything.
I love the detail. I'm literally like flicking through a copy I've got here now. Even like something as like common as like Monaco Grand Prix. You've got things such as Monaco Grand Prix was released in Brazil and the US as Racing Simulation 2 in Germany and Racing Simulation Monaco Grand Prix in the UK. The various versions of Monaco Grand Prix, including the German and English name versions, all have different discs. The English release and a multi-regional release share instructions are different than the German release. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Wow.
You see that this is where it goes to OCD levels of notes. But yes. But that's actually a good example of that game, because I've got a German version. I had a German version, which obviously has a different name than the English release version. And for ages, I thought there was 2. I thought there was 1 and number 2, and obviously there wasn't. No. So it was a bit confusing. So that's what the list was basically for. Let's be honest about it, the list was basically made to make my life easier. That was the basic reason.
And I'm hoping that it's going to make other people's lives easier. I sent the vast majority of the first batch out yesterday, and a couple of people have said, they've got it, and that they've been spending like the last hour kind of flicking through it. I'm just like, that's exactly what the intention was, for people, hardcore people who want to just basically sit and read a list of games. It sounds sad to people maybe, but I think it's fascinating. I find it absolutely fascinating. Sorry, Scott, I cut you off there. What were you going to say then?
I was going to say, if I could stand up and give you a standing ovation, I would, because it's absolutely brilliant. And reading through it, I think I realized something that's quite fascinating, in that with the PAL releases in Europe, I think you look at the initial releases or the first couple of waves of releases, and they're generally multi-region, multi-language releases, and I think that makes sense in the beginning, because you're not really quite sure how things are going to take off in different regions. So if it sort of falters in the UK but goes gangbusters in German, you can shift some of your stock from the UK to Germany and you're sweet. But towards the end and the later phases of the Dreamcast, they did start to split them up. So there was specific German releases and specific releases, and the specific English releases, and sort of, I assume, smaller production runs of each of those to sort of cut costs and not produce thousands of manuals with unnecessary languages. Like I think the prime example was Buzz Lightyear. So you've got Buzz Lightyear of Star Command in the UK and Buzz Eclair in France, and Buzz de Heisenberger in Germany or whatever.
I wonder if the online stuff had anything to do with them splitting off as well, because I remember quite a lot of the PAL Online games had like little flags at the bottom saying which countries actually supported online.
Yeah, they did,
so I wonder if they had to print different manuals to exclude the pages about the online gaming for those versions. Or
I think looking into it, I think a lot of the Sega games, or all Sega games, I think, without having the list in front of me, all Sega published games were multi-country releases. So they all had one disc for them all. I think a lot of the other ones, where they were heavily language-based, so things like the Resident Evil games, some of the sports games with commentary, they'd had different discs to actually allow that extra data for the regional it was released in. So the UEFA Soccer would have had a German version which had German commentary on it, whereas the English version didn't.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I think whenever anybody claims that they have the full PAL set, I'd like to say to them, do you really? Because once you start thinking about all of the different language variations, it becomes a lot harder to get a full PAL set.
I'm just looking at the guide now, and I've noted that there are 9 different versions of Ready to Rumble boxing. 9. And there are 4 different European versions. 4 different European versions. So, if you've got the entire PAL set, you must have 4 different versions of Ready to Rumble as well in your collection.
I think the game with the most releases is Resident Evil Veronica. I think it was like 16 different releases. I'm probably wrong there. But
wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Tom's going to prove me wrong now, I think.
8, 9, 10. Well, you've only got 10 here, actually, Mike. You've let yourself down.
You've got Biohazard.
You've got to look at the B as well.
So we've got 10,
Biohazard.
10 in the Resident Evil section.
Tom, the game was released as Biohazard in Japan.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, it's 13. Yeah,
Close enough.
13 different versions of Resident Evil Code Veronica. That's the amount of detail this guide goes into. And as I said at the top of this section, massive hats off to you, Mike, for the amount of effort you put into this. It's fantastic. I love it.
I'd just like to say he stole my thunder, because I started doing a similar thing years ago, and I'd like to claim that he stole my thunder, but I started for maybe a few weeks and then gave up. So. Because I was in a similar situation, I wanted to work out if I wanted to own just one version of every unique game there was, so not caring about a full PAL set or a full US set, just getting its one regional version. How many of them are there, and how many do I have left to get? And I could never figure it out. But now that the guide's out, I've got 423 Dreamcast games out of 651, so I'm 65% there.
Pretty good going.
Yeah. But I think I'll give up now, because they're all dating sims and sports games that I don't care about.
I was going to say about how I love that you've put it out as a physical book, because even though there was a PDF of it, having it to flick through is really nice. Obviously, I haven't got my copy yet, but I'm looking forward to it,
Yeah. Plus, now it's the book itself is now like a collector's item, which is really interesting. Which is
interesting, because it means I've done a collector's guide. Now the book itself is part of the.
You have to do a revised version of the book. It actually has in the back Dreamcast books. This book. There are 2 versions. The second version adds this book to the.
I will say though, because it's a lot of thanks goes to Tom as well, because I emailed Tom out of the blue 6 months ago now.
Something like that, yeah.
With the list, and Tom's been very supportive the entire way I put it out and getting the physically out there.
It's been a pleasure.
Which is great.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I think we should move on to our next topic, which will be probably our main topic of discussion on this episode, and that is as it's almost Halloween. By the time certainly this is out, it will have come and gone. We're actually approaching the witching hour now, actually, as we're recording this. But Halloween is upon us, and so in fact, Scott, it was kind of your idea that we should maybe talk a little bit about our favourite, not so much Halloween themed, but just like horror type games on the Dreamcast. There's quite a lot. I mean, and it spans several genres. We'll basically jump into the next discussion and just talk about our favourite spooky gore-ridden horror Halloween games. As it was your kind of baby, Scott, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, sure. I just thought of the idea out of the blue, and I don't think I've played that many. So I've played Soul Reaver, which we've talked about in a previous Dream Pod, so I won't go into too much detail there. I really enjoyed it, and although I did feel that when you get to the end of the game, it feels a little bit as if there was more to it, but it didn't quite make it into the final product. It feels like it sort of ends abruptly, and you think that I was really getting into it, and then it sort of ends. So that probably happens in the sequel on PlayStation 2. I haven't played yet, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, but it does feel a little bit short, or not so much poor longevity, but it just seems to end before it gets interesting, which is a bit of a shame. But my all-time favorite is Code Veronica, hands down. And I know my experience with Resident Evil is a little bit patchy because I started with the first game on Saturn, and then I didn't get a PlayStation, so the next game I played was Code Veronica, and I just absolutely loved Code Veronica.
It's the same for me. I actually had the exact same thing where I didn't get a PlayStation, and I ended up skipping 2 and 3 as well.
Did you have the same experience? Because then I played 2 after Code Veronica.
I still haven't played 2, but yeah.
Oh, you still haven't played 2? Oh.
It's mainly just 1 and Code Veronica.
Yeah, I'm more or less the same, but like I played Resident Evil 2 after Code Veronica, and I was a little bit disappointed in it because I didn't get that progression from like 1 to the 4th. And so it felt like a step back, and everyone raves about it as sort of one of the pinnacles of the series, but I didn't really get that sense from it, and I think it's because it loses that sort of spooky mansion feel being in the city.
I get that.
Whereas it was really evident in number 1 and really evident in Code Veronica. And I feel like just there's like a really sort of adult theme in Code Veronica that really gets under your skin with the Ashford family and Alexia and Alfred and their incestuous relationship. And it's not the same sort of scares as like, you know, the zombie dogs jumping through the window and those sort of immediate frights. It's this sort of slow burn, really sort of unnerving creepiness to the whole thing. And I'm probably going to give away all these spoilers, but like towards the end. Oh, come on.
It's been out now for like 15, 20 years. I mean, if you've not played it yet, then.
Yeah, that's right.
You haven't played it yet, you probably never will.
Yeah, the remake of the first mansion in Antarctica. And
oh, wait a minute, I've not got to that bit yet. You're spoiling it for me now.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just like, even though it doesn't have that multiple ending replayability thing that Resident Evil 2 had, I feel like the storyline is a much better game for Code Veronica. And while we're on the subject with the guide and everything, we touched on it a little bit in the last Dream Pod. A couple of different versions of the Biohazard release in Japan. So there was the regular edition and the limited edition that came in the red slipcase, which is a really nice collector's item. But after that, there was the director's cut that came out
Same
as well.
Same as the PlayStation 2 one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It adds additional content, and there's an extra. The main thing I think was an extra boss battle between Chris and Wesker that isn't in the original version. So,
do you want me to read the entry from the guide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Biohazard 2 Value Plus. Japanese release of Resident Evil 2. The Value Plus refers to the fact that this was a part of the PS1 game with an extra battle mode, and probably in reference to the inclusion of the Code Veronica Trial Edition disc, which is known for having a nice sound museum mode with various tracks from the Biohazard games. There you go.
Huh.
Yeah, there's another one. Go a bit further down the list. There'll be a Biohazard Code Veronica Director's Cut or something along those lines. It was known as Code Veronica X on the PlayStation 2, but I think it was... I don't know the exact Japanese name, but I think it roughly translates to Director's Cut.
Is this one in the red slipcase?
No, it's another one. The
one
after that.
Edition.
It could be that one, yeah.
Yeah, and the JPN-O release is listed as other due to the fact that it is in a slightly different version of the game, the equivalent to a Game of the Year edition that now the West now gets. It contains new FMVs and different packaging.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an extra boss battle in it as well, but I could have my facts facts wrong, but yeah, I haven't actually played the PlayStation 2 version or the director's cut, but yeah, it's the definitive version on Dreamcast, but it's only in Japanese. So if you want to play the definitive version of the game, you probably have to get it on PlayStation 2. But apart from all that, that's my favorite Resident Evil game and the best horror game on Dreamcast is in my opinion. So.
Nice. Moving on, Caleb, what about yourself?
I have to say D2. I loved Resident Evil Code Veronica. That was like the first game that kind of really captured my attention, and I started actually playing the Dreamcast before I bought one, and that was one of the first games that I actually was playing. But D2 is one of those games that I stumbled upon, and it was just such an interesting looking game, and I was such a fan of like survival horror that I had to buy it. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's real.
I was gonna say, every time I think of that game, every time I like see it and that, I always think of your review of it.
Yeah, my horrible video review, which some random person took, because I used a tiny bit of like public domain audio. Somebody was getting like ad money off that frickin' video for many years, and I just didn't know. And it's like, how can? Yeah, so great. YouTube's awesome. So yeah, no, it's such a great game, and it just puts you in a mood, and it's like there's like a mini hunting game in it, and then you're playing survival horror game, but then like you have this mostly silent protagonist, and it's this story that doesn't really make a ton of sense. But it's just got this feeling, and the ending video is just the game's a real trip. Anybody who can find a copy of it, it's a great game to play.
What about yourself, Mike?
There's a couple I was gonna pick, but I think Type in the Dead
was
be my choice.
Nice choice.
I funnily enough, I actually played it first on the PC many years ago. It's just it's one of those games which sort of defined Dreamcast in my mind anyway. Completely original, completely different. And just a great game, to be honest with you. House of the Dead 2 is not bad, but Type of the Dead is, Type of the Dead is, it's up there. It's just a game which just, it's so weird and so ridiculous in its concept.
And it actually makes for a good typing tutorial as well. All the typing tutorial stuff in that is legitimately good. Like, the fact that it teaches you about the little lips on two of the keys and how to, touch type and all that kind of stuff. They actually go into full detail with that stuff, and I think it was a spectacular little game. The only problem I had with it is because it only came out in America in English, two of the keys are obviously the opposite way round on British keyboards. So I've actually been tempted to pull out them two keys and swap them round because I don't use that keyboard for anything else now. It's exclusively used for typing of the dead. So, or I could just play the
standardization of the English language.
I think the two keys are like the at key and I think something else. I can't remember now. Two of the miscellaneous symbols of some kind.
Isn't it AZERTY in Australia, Scott?
Oh, I've got no idea.
Because it's QWERTY over there. I thought it was like AZ. Maybe I'm just making that up. What about yourself, Aaron? What's your choice?
In terms of games that have not only were really creepy, gave me lots of jump scares and put me in very uncomfortable situations, I have to say Seaman.
Really?
Yeah.
Good choice.
I can't think of any other game that's made me as uncomfortable as that game. Not necessarily in a horror way, but just the graphics and some of the conversations he has with you are legitimately just kind of what does he want from you? He gathers all this information and he's like, oh, my knowledge of you will soon be complete. What's he going to do with it? He's going to steal my identity.
No, it's when you turn it on and it's got your face. You're like, I have become one.
Yep.
That's a pretty good choice, to be honest. I can't beat that, but I went for Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare.
Oh, okay.
Simply because I'm a really big fan of Lovecraft and Lovecraftian horror. There's something really creepy about that game. I know as you get further into it, you realise that it's not really that scary, but in the initial stages of the game, it's like you don't really know what you're fighting against, and that's what is unnerving about it. You don't know what the story is, and it's got a lot of cues from the first Resident Evil. You're in a mansion, you've got scares you've got things like thunder and lightning come through the windows, and you're just walking around this ancient empty mansion with just footsteps clanking around the environments, but it's just great at building atmosphere, and that's really what I love about it. And then obviously with the Lovecraftian kind of overtones as well, with the ancient magic and that kind of thing, it just really struck a chord with me. So yeah, I love that one. One game I wanted to actually ask if anyone's actually played is I'm gonna absolutely butcher the name of this now because it's Japanese, but it's wait, sorry, I'm just going to compose myself. Nanatsu no Hikan Serenritsu no Bishu. No, anyone?
That's the one. I think that's the one Caleb mentioned last episode that he couldn't pronounce
either. The guy was wearing the jeans?
The guy in the shorts.
Yeah, I've actually got the guide here. I'll have a look. Where's H?
You can buy it now at dreamcast.junkyard.co.uk.
I can't find it. No worries. Anyway, I just wanted to ask a bit. It's kind of like it's like a game version of the Island of Dr. Moreau, where you're basically on this island looking for this doctor, and you've got all these monsters just appearing from nowhere, and it was planned for a UK. An English language translation, but it never came. So
never heard of that one.
I'll put it in the description to the episode. So,
all right, no, the PC guy there, the Dreamcast channel guy, he did a run through. If it's the Seven Mansions game.
That's it.
Then that's the one he's doing a run through of it. Yeah. He actually thanked me on Twitter because he says I was looking for a game to do for Halloween for my YouTube channel, and so big ups to him because hopefully you're listening. Yeah, no thanks, and I'm glad you got it and got it running. I actually managed to track down a reasonably priced copy, so hopefully I'll be able to finally be able to play this game on my own soon.
Shout out to PC Wizard for his run through.
Yeah,
cool.
It's on my to get list as well. I've got a short list of about a dozen or so games to get, and that was on my short list. I haven't got it yet. And I'll just briefly mention some honourable mentions in the Halloween theme that we haven't touched on. Is Illbleed. Has anyone played that?
I tried to.
Yeah. I haven't played it, but I've heard good things about it, and there's some concepts in it that sound interesting to me, but I haven't got around to playing it before. So if anyone else wants to take over, who's actually
I played it very, very briefly, probably for about an hour or so, so I can't really give that much of an opinion. But I don't know, Caleb. Gagaman, have you played it?
Yeah, I've played a bit of it. I couldn't even really beat the first level, unfortunately. I kind of found it quite difficult once you got to the actual sort of boss area, and they sort of lock you into this weird square or whatever it was. I didn't really understand what to do, so I haven't really played it that much. But one thing I really love about that game is just how, and this is kind of a common thing with the Dreamcast, it's almost like a trademark of the Dreamcast, how it's got lots of really weird naff horror games on it with really awful voice acting,
like Blue Stinger.
Yeah, like Blue Stinger, Illbleed, Carrier. I guess you could count that one as well. And in the case of that one, I don't think that was deliberately bad. That one they were trying, but it was just awful. Loads of games like
Weirdly,
that.
Carrier goes for quite a lot now. Carrier is quite expensive.
Oh, what, like the health version?
Yeah. It's just I don't understand why it's crap.
Yeah, I like the looks of one of the later levels when it looks like the main character gets planted into a wooden doll.
It's a full-on Toy Story parody. You're playing like a not Woody, and there's like a not Buzz Lightyear, and they end up killing the boy. Like their owner, they end up killing the boy.
Right.
Well, Andy.
Yeah. They kill their Andy, and then there's this Barbie doll who's just got her ass hanging out for some reason. And at some point, they find a giant demon Sonic the Hedgehog called Zodic, spelt with a Z. They end up in hell for killing their boy, I think. And there's this big demon Sonic that you have to fight.
That sounds almost as weird as that Sonic My Flatmate Sonic. Did you play that on that Sonic collection that came out a few months
Dreams
ago?
collection.
Oh, you have to pull his shoe off and then try and kiss Sonic.
What the hell? It's a horror game. Yeah. Stare into his eyes.
Hey, I hate to say it, but the Sonic fandom Some of you guys deserve that game. Not all you guys. Not everybody, but some people did deserve it.
So while we're on the subject of Sonic, we probably should mention Pumpkin Hill from Sonic Adventure 2.
Nicely done.
Oh god!
And I'll be disappointed if the edit for this doesn't include that theme song in some way.
It will do.
When I listen to it later.
One thing I did see about Pumpkin Hill, which kind of tickled me, was the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account tweeted a video of a man in a black jumpsuit dancing to the Pumpkin Hill song with a
that was
pumpkin
a random
mask.
YouTube video that someone made, and the official Sega Sonic the Hedgehog Facebook just ganked that video.
What am I watching?
The actual original video is of Ghostbusters. It's like a cover of Ghostbusters. It was just some random TV show, like one of those local American TV news channels. And they had him dancing to like some weird cover of Ghostbusters. And then, yes, somewhere on the internet, that video of it with Pumpkin Hill turned up.
From the depths of the internet.
By the way, the guy that runs the Sonic the Hedgehog community stuff, like the Facebook, the Twitter and that, is a guy called Aaron Webber, and he's an absolute genius when it comes to the social media side of like the Sonic stuff now. He's constantly posting silly stuff like that.
You mean it's not Sonic? It's not Sonic? It's like being told Father Christmas doesn't exist. Yeah, we've all had a crack at our favourite Halloween game. So if you're listening to this and you want to play something a bit scary or just a bit crap, then take our advice. Go and get Carrier.
There's plenty of scary and crap scary games on the Dreamcast.
Cool. All right, we'll move on. It's probably going to be mainly me talking in the next section because it's going to be about Renegade Racers. But following on from the Colin McRae Rally 2 reveal that we had a couple of weeks ago, which was quite popular, I uploaded a video to YouTube which showed me playing a game called Renegade Racers quite badly, I have to admit. And Renegade Racers was a game from Promethean Designs, which actually came out on the PC and the PlayStation, I believe. And there was a Dreamcast version also in the works. For whatever reason, it got cancelled. I mean, the game on the PlayStation, I think it was on the PC, got really kind of average review scores. It's a kart racer, like Renegade Racers or something along those lines. Renegade Racers, I'm talking about Speed Freaks.
Yeah.
Speed Freaks, something along those lines. So I don't know if you guys saw the video at all.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
It's a kart racer.
Very by the numbers. Like, even compared to like Walt Disney World Magical Racing Tour, even compared to that, it seemed extremely generic. It was like, well, how can we differentiate this? Put them in boats, and that'll do. Put it out.
Yeah, you've got a collection of like highly stereotypical and some may say offensive characters. I mean, you've got a black guy who's just like typical army sergeant in a tank, a French guy with like a long nose. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is a bit...
It doesn't really even feel like they tried with like the characters at all.
No. I mean, in the build I played, there was only the one track, as far as I could tell, that I could actually get to work, which was like a fairground, like a nighttime fairground, as is in the video. To be honest, it played quite well, but I don't think if it had come out, it would have set the world on fire. It was nice.
It would have been a bit of a drop in the water, to be honest. Yeah. But, I mean, like, some of the scenery was quite nice in that, I thought. Like, and I liked, some of the water effects were quite nice in that. But, yeah, it was a bit basic. But then I guess it was probably an early build. I don't know how it compares to the released PlayStation and PC ones, if like they added any extra effects to it later on, or
no. I think it's just visually cleaner. It's just a higher resolution version of the same game, like a lot of PlayStation ports.
I was just curious if that build you played was like such an early build that it was while they were still working on the PlayStation and PC versions, or whether or not the game was planned to come out long after they'd already made the PlayStation version.
The one thing that is quite puzzling about this game is that there's so little information online.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it until you brought it up.
Yeah, a few tiny screenshots on Unseen64, that's it. And then now we've got the video up, so if you're into your cancelled kart races, then please, by all means, go and have a look at
one of at least two, isn't it? Because there was the Flintstones, what was it, the Flintstones movie one that they did, and
Viva Rock Vegas.
It got leaked, didn't it? And someone actually had like a white label disc of it, I believe. I think that's how it got leaked.
That's right.
And I think there was a couple others that never seen any kind of light of day. Like, I think there was a Woody Woodpecker one that was planned at one point that did actually come out. I think it did actually come out on the PlayStation 2, but that was at one point announced for the Dreamcast and never happened. But
yes, cancelled games are a particular interest to me. I don't know.
Same here.
There's this whole like a fascination, of what could have been.
I've always been fascinated by that side of things. Like what ifs kind of thing.
It's a hope that one day we'll find some of the big ones. I think black and white.
There must be a version of that about somewhere. Because when they showed off Dreamcast footage of that, it did look quite different to the PC one. So there's, I reckon they did have a playable build at some stage. They could have done.
Yeah, DD Planet.
That was an interesting one you mentioned there, Scott. DD Planet, because going back to PC Wizard Dreamcastic channel we spoke about earlier on. He's literally recently released a video, The Games That Never Were, is it Volume 5, where he does actually go on about DD Planet, and then at one point in the video he shows a screenshot of a big pile of Genie ROMs.
I was the person that discovered that, by the way. He didn't credit me for that, maybe because I didn't really make a big deal out of it. But when Sega first put those photos out, and they were on Flickr and they were really super high resolution, I went, oh look, there's a huge pile. I'll zoom in on it, and the first thing I saw was DD Planet on that list. What? And that wasn't even the only game there. I think there was a couple others, like early builds of like games that never came out. I can't remember what they were though, but there were a couple others in there. But that was the main one that stood out.
Now we on this podcast and everybody else listening knows that's down to you. So well done.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I think the main thing with DD Planet is if it ever does get discovered, it will be a fully complete game, because the only problem with it was the networking issue, which isn't an issue anymore anyway. So it'll be, if it's ever found and dumped and released, it'll be like Propeller Arena. It'll be,
I really
finished,
hope that one
basically.
gets fun, because that always looked really fun to me. It always, I remember it being compared to when they were previewing it in magazines. They were comparing it. Do you remember there was like an unlockable game in the Saturn version of I think it was either Quake or Duke Nukem or something. There was a game called...
Oh, was it Death Tank?
Yeah. People said it played a lot like that.
Yeah, no, I had Death Tank, it was in Duke Nukem. It was in Duke Nukem 3D, and I unlocked Death Tank specifically for a tournament I was doing, because it was just a fun little game. Yeah!
So I'm just laughing at Caleb's intro there for Death Tank.
That's
cool. Right, guys, we've been recording for just over an hour now. I think that's probably enough. And should we? I mean, unless there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, or as usual, a wall of silence greets me.
Happy Halloween!
I think we'll close it there. We need to actually get our costumes on and go trick or treating. So it's probably a good time to do that now.
I gotta give all the good children who come to my house candy for Halloween. Oh yes!
For the love of God, don't go to his house, children.
Undertaker.
Alrighty then.
on that bombshell, you've been listening to the Dreamcast Junkyard Dream Pod. We should really pimp the things that we've been doing. Obviously, Mike, you have worked on the Dreamcast Junkyard Ultimate Collector's Guide. It is available now on the Dreamcast Junkyard, and it costs £10, and it's free post in the UK, and it's £4 postage anywhere else in the world, which I think is quite cheap.
Waiting for my copy.
It should be with you soon, Aaron.
Look forward to it.
Just thanks again to you, Mike, for creating that. Caleb, do you want to give a shout out to your YouTube channel?
Yes, my YouTube channel is Blandco, Bland, C-O. Also, if you want to see the Dreamtastic channel that he was talking about, that Seven Mansions game, that, if you just look up First Look Seven Mansions, it's the first video on YouTube, or you can look up his channel on the Dreamtastic channel, where he takes a look at that game and makes a really honorable attempt at trying to play a Japanese game, which is very, very difficult to play if you don't know how to know.
Yeah, and just on that subject as well, he's also doing the, it's called Good Dreamcastic Morning, which is like sort of a play on the like the really tacky kind of morning TV that you see every morning. And he gets different guests on. I believe he's got Adam Corralick coming on as well at some point in the near future, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, Scott, if there's anything you want to give a shout out to,
just recently, Sega Retro launched NEC Retro, or NEC Retro as we're calling it. So we've branched out into detailing PC engines and also PC 98 and PC 88 software and hardware and things.
That's gonna be complicated.
It's in the very early stages, so there's not a lot there, but it is. Yeah. One interesting thing that came out was that a unique version of Donkey Kong 3 for the PC 98 is sort of unheard of amongst Western civilization. Yeah, I think it includes, is it Stanley, the bug spray guy or something? I don't know. There's an interesting curio there. Yeah.
What's it called? NEC Retro?
Yeah, it's NEC Retro, but we're calling it NEC Retro amongst ourselves.
Aaron, do you want to give a shout out?
Necromancer Retro.
That's right.
Aaron, do you want to give a shout out to your? I know you've got your own YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel I'm running now is Lucky Hit Series. If you just look up Lucky Hit Series or just Lucky Hit, it should come up. We've actually got a load of EGX Eurogamer Birmingham coverage going out in the next few weeks. And we've actually got a couple Halloween videos going up tomorrow, actually. So by the time this goes out, they'll be out, of some kind of rubbish games that we played. And yeah, we've got videos going out constantly at the moment. So please check that out.
Cool. Okay. All I do is this. And just basically moan on Twitter about how my MacBook's broken. So, Mike, you're on Twitter as well now, aren't you? What's your handle?
Do you know, Tom? I've been on Twitter for a week now.
I think it's is it Space Turnip?
At Space Turnip, yeah. At Space_Turnip.
Scott, you're on Twitter at
Doc_Eggfan.
Aaron, you're on Twitter at
The Gagger Man.
And Caleb exists somewhere in the ether. Like an omnipresent, weird, high-voiced person. You can also follow the Dreamcast Junkyard on Twitter at Sega Junkyard, and we are on Facebook at facebook.com/the Dreamcast Junkyard. And as ever, you can find the main site by just typing Dreamcast into Google, and we're like the first hit now. Not blowing our own trumpets, but for some reason that's just happened weirdly. But if you wanted to type a URL, it's www.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. And thanks very much for tuning into this action-packed, well, I say action-packed, this episode. And hopefully, you won't get eaten by a ghost on Halloween or molested by a witch or something. So thanks for listening.
All right.
Goodbye.
See you later. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Please stop this disc now.